Welcome back to the Can't Stop Talking podcast. This episode is going to be a continuation of the last episode. You do not have to go back and listen, although I highly recommend because I got so many messages from you guys on Instagram that you loved it, which means so much to me. But today we are going to dive deeper on just one of those topics. And the episode last week was 6 reasons people are making more money than you do. And one of those 6 reasons was that they are okay with rejection. And today on the podcast, I'm going to explain how I got over my fear of rejection and also why rejection is a myth, why it isn't real, why it's made up, and how you can see that in your mind and how getting over rejection is going to fix everything in your life, from your job to maybe your business to your love life to everything. You're going to stop putting yourself in a box and not getting to their next level. You're going to actually ask for what you want and take chances and higher the risk, higher the reward. So let's get right into it. I used to be someone who was deathly afraid of rejection, and especially in the atmosphere of love. I would go out to the bars with my friends and I would see a really cute boy and I would just stare at him all night, and I literally would not go up to him, and I would think about that boy all night, and I would go home and I'd be sitting in my bed and I was like just regretting. I would regret the fact that I was too much of a pussy to go over there and talk to him because I was so scared of the illusion of rejection. And I did that over and over and over and over again. Every night I would sit in my bed and I would just feel these deep rooted feelings of regret. And what would happen is I would unknowingly and subconsciously reject myself before anyone else could. So instead of going over there and just striking up a conversation and seeing if it was reciprocated, I wouldn't strike up that conversation with that person because I subconsciously wanted to reject myself. Why? Because then I would at least know the outcome. Humans love familiarity. So when we know the outcome, we feel better. We're like, of course, I knew he was going to reject me, so let me just reject myself, and now I feel more comfortable. Before you ask, the outcome is always no, right? If you don't ask that person, if you don't say hi, if you don't strike up conversation, if you don't ask that person out, the answer is always going to be no. Just like the answer was no before you went up to them because you were rejecting yourself. And this happens all over, right? You don't ask for that promotion at your job because you're already telling yourself that they're not going to promote you. So instead of asking, and maybe the odds are yes or no, you don't ask, and then the odds are always no. You don't ask that person out because you think that they're going to reject you. So instead of the odds being maybe they'll go out with you or maybe they won't, the odds are 100% no for you because you don't ask them out. Instead of, asking that client if they want to join your program, you don't ask them at all because you feel bad. And maybe your program was the solution to their needs. But because you didn't want to ask them, the answer is always no. When you start being comfortable with rejection, it opens you up to the possibility of a yes. And so, what I learned years ago when I was so scared of rejection is that regret trumps the feeling of rejection every day. I would rather die. You guys know I get morbid when I'm trying to shift your beliefs, but I would rather be on my deathbed knowing that I asked for what I wanted and got rejected instead of living in regret. And that's when it all changed for me. I realized that rejection is fake, right? If you pitch your program to someone and they don't join, then you don't gain anything, right? Before you pitched it to them, they weren't in your program, and they aren't in your program now. Before you ask someone out, right? If you ask someone out and they say no, well, you weren't going out with them before you asked them, and you aren't going out with them now. So actually, nothing changed. No variables change, right? It only feels like rejection because we make up these little stories in our head. Like, no one wants me, right? No one wants my stupid course. I'm never going to make it. I'm never going to be successful. See, I told you that that person wouldn't want to go out with someone like me. I know I'm always going to be lonely. I know that, this course sucks and that's why they didn't buy it. I knew my manager was never going to promote me. It's the stories that you attach to rejection, which rejection is just data, right? It's just saying that person said no, let's try again. But you're taking the no and you're adding emotions to it. My favorite saying, you're making something mean something about something else. And so what happened? From that moment that I decided rejection was not real, and I decided that I was living in regret, I changed the way that my brain saw rejection. I decided it wasn't my brain doesn't even filter for rejection anymore. The filters in my brain, there's no such thing, right? There are no's, there are yeses, but there is no rejection. I don't make a meaning towards the no's. And so what happened was I started working on my self-concept. I started working on, my affirmations. I started saying things like, you can have anyone you want. You're gorgeous. Everyone wants to be in your programs. Your business is blooming. You have the most amazing, but just anything that I felt like I was rejected on in the past, I started saying what I wanted people to say to me. And once I reprogrammed my mind through journaling, affirmations, NLP, EFT tapping, visualization, all these things, all these tools, now I'm the first person to go up to someone I want at the bar. I'm the first person to wave down that guy. My friends are like, Sam is ruthless. If you want someone, tell Sam who you want. She'll go up to them for you, right? And why? Because even if that person ends up being like, sorry, I don't want to talk to you, I don't see it as rejection, right? I see it as maybe I'm not their type. Maybe they had a girlfriend. Maybe they were in a bad mood, right? I don't make it mean something about myself. I make it mean something about them. And I really noticed that my mindset changed when the next day I would wake up with my friends and I would gossip about the night before. My friend would be like, those boys really didn't want to talk to us. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? They loved talking to us. And what I realized is it's literally how your brain perceives every situation. So I no longer saw anything as rejection. I saw the situation as going my way, even if the end result wasn't what I wanted. Right? And so I took rejection out of the equation and I started getting what I wanted. I started going on dates. I started getting the boys I wanted. I started getting the clients I wanted. I built my business. I left my job. I got opportunities that I would have never got because I actually started asking for what I wanted. This is the power of changing the meaning of rejection in your mind. And so I've seen this time and time again. There was a girl in my mastermind who I'm just obsessed with, and she was in a program under a really, really well-known person in the housing industry. He's on TV. He's famous. I'm going to have her on the podcast eventually so she can tell the story. But basically, after the program, she went up to this person and she introduced herself and she pitched herself to him. And now she works on his projects. She works for him full time. Why? Because she wasn't scared to do the things that other people aren't willing to. He said that to the group of the people in the program, that she is working for him now because she went up there She had the balls to do that. What is one thing in your life that you are really scared of doing? I want you after this podcast to do that. And so, like I said last week, Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul, it got rejected 140 times before it got accepted and went on to sell millions of copies. What if your big break was going to happen after the 140th rejection? But you're too scared to get 140 no's. I talked to my coach a couple weeks ago, and I was like, wow, I had two women who really wanted to work with me, and I was out of their budget, and I was really upset, right? And she said, Sam, you know, the higher up you get in the industry, it's not that you get more yeses, you have more inquiries. So you also get way more no's. That changed my mind on everything. It's a numbers game, this life, right? And if you just see this life as a game, then you'll start having so much more fun. And this brings me to an example that I actually love. And I want you guys to think about this because we've all seen this. There's always that one guy at the bar who you see, and you see this one guy, and he's always hitting on every single girl at the bar. He's always flirting with every single girl, and he usually gets rejected 99% of the time. But at the end of the night, you always see that he seems to take one girl home. And then there's always one girl at the bar who gets rejected once and sits in the bathroom crying all night and then eventually leaves the bar with tears in her eyes. But you're like, Sam, how does this relate to business, right? Well, one, stop making every rejection or no mean something about you as an entrepreneur. And two, treat every rejection like you're getting closer to a dream client saying yes and just keep going. The boy, he didn't see the first or the fifth rejection meaning that he wasn't going to find a girl to take home that night, right? He knew it was a numbers game. He was like, all right, that girl's not about me. There's a million other people in this bar. Let me talk to everyone until I find someone who likes me back. The girl talks to one person and says, I'm ugly. There's something wrong with me, and wants to go home. Same night, two very different circumstances. Because one person wasn't afraid of rejection. It's just crazy when you think about it. So I love this story as well. And I heard Emma Chamberlain on a podcast. And when she started blowing up on her Instagram or her YouTube channel, she was asked, like, were people making fun of you at school? And she was like, well, I would have made fun of me, right? I would have made fun of me if I saw someone from my school making videos. But now Emma Chamberlain is everywhere you look, right? She's hosting on red carpets. And so maybe at one point in your life, the cringy part is what you absolutely need to succeed. Go look back at my IG videos, go look back at my content. You will see the cringe, but you need the cringe to get where you're going, right? And the last thing I want to leave you with is on my Instagram, you might see like I have 23,000 followers, right? But you also don't see that I posted 984 times. You didn't see the crickets that I've heard, right? And you also didn't see that I used to have 30,000 followers, but I lost 6,000 followers because I changed my niche from manifestation to business, right? And so you might be looking at someone's highlight reel on Instagram and not realizing and seeing all the no's they had to go through to get there. So I hope this podcast episode changed the way that you view rejection and helps you get everything you've ever wanted in this life because you deserve that. So just start asking because the answer will never be yes if you don't ask. I love you. If this episode resonated with you, please come to Instagram and tell me. And I had to tell you, my signature course, Dream Business Accelerator, is now open. It is your business Bible. It has everything from manifesting in business to growing your Instagram to selling. And then I'm adding a launching module because we just had a 10K pre-launch of this course. And we've revamped the course and we have added 6 months of group coaching. I heard you guys need support and accountability, so I listened. So if you want to get in that course, message me on Instagram, the word DBA. I love you guys and I hope you enjoyed this episode.